Curt, second row to your left.
Hey, Curt, Kareem Copeland, Washington Post. Long season, you're finally here. What's the last message that you give to the team before you go out?
I think taking the lead from the players is to enjoy every minute of it through the highs and the lows of this series and to really have fun. We realized that it was a little bit tense in that semifinals at times, and that they just needed to take a deep breath and relax and have fun and try to live in the moment. And it's so much easier said than done, but our veteran voices in that locker room after game 3 really set the tone for game 4. The game 4 victory gave us confidence that we could pull something off in game 5.
Next question, we're going to go to Zoom. Andy, if you would. Go ahead, Andy.
Oh, thanks very much. Hey, Curt, Andy Lipton with Woom Hoops Guru and Leading the Break. First of all, congratulations on an amazing win in Game 5. The question I have is I was kind of paying attention to Odyssey Sims in Game 3, and I noticed she was playing great defense, denying the ball. I forgot whether it was Sloot or a Quigley who she was guarding, and she also showed a lot of spirit. Could we maybe expect to see her getting a lot of playing time defending against Chelsea Gray?
Yeah, Odyssey's been a really important pickup. A secondary pivot for us after losing our second player to an ACL injury in that position. She's been terrific late season addition for us, and she's a two-way player. She's a talented offensive facilitator, and she understands. She's a veteran. But what she's really providing us is an on-ball extra defender that can come in there and play against the best of the best. So with this talented backcourt that Vegas throws at you the entire game, she'll play a factor off the bench to be able to guard some of these talented guards for Vegas. So she absolutely could be big in this series for us.
Curt, next two questions from the front row. We'll start all the way to the right.
Ben Pickman, Sports Illustrated. Have you personally prepared for this series differently than the 2019 series, whether it's being messages you voiced or don't voice to the team, how much film you watch, what clips you're kind of showing stylistically? Is your prep different at all?
It really hasn't been, other than it's been a really quick turnaround. A long physical series with Chicago. Took the day off on our travel day. So it left us a one-day prep for game 1, and we know we have 3 and 5. And so we don't have a shoot around this morning. We don't have a film session this morning. So it's been as talented as Vegas is, it's difficult on a one-day prep. So but that's our number one pillar in our acronym, P for preparation. And we believe preparation is power. So we've tried to do the best we can with a one-day prep on all of Vegas's actions, all their schemes. In terms of 2019 to now, not much difference other than, truly trying to live in the moment and enjoy this. We realize more than ever how difficult it is to get back to this moment. And we're not going to take it for granted. We, truly appreciate the opportunity to be back. That veteran group, realizes how difficult it is.
Curt, first row center.
Hey, Curt, Mark Schindler, WNBA.com. Kind of pivoting off that too. When you look back from 2019 to now, how do you think you've grown most as a coach? Like things that have changed the most for you on and off the court?
It's interesting. My journey at this level is so different than the collegiate level. So it's my 20th season as a head coach. And you continually learn. You're constantly learning. You're constantly learning flaws about you. X's and O's wise, you're learning about flaws personality wise. The growth is the management of players. The collegiate level was so much coaching. At this level, it's knowing when not to coach and say less. I've probably coached less this year than my 20 years, but I have a veteran group. So I'm fortunate that I don't have to overcoach, and our preparation is our key piece to what we believe in. And we believe that they're prepared. Now I got to manage them and just support our players. And, you know, that's my biggest growth. And my assistant coaches are elite, and they talk a lot. At times they run the thing, and I'm just up here managing players. I'm managing my coaches, and I have tremendous players to lean on, and I have the elite assistant coaches.
Curt, next two questions from the second row.
Hey, Curt, Jackie Powell, Bleacher Report. Why do you think that there's a trend in this league, how in, this year, 2021 and 2019, there will be a new WNBA champion?
I wish I could tell you. Just shows how much hunger, desire, what fuels athletes at the highest level. It's so hard to repeat. It's so hard to have that edge. The disappointment from 19 with a fourth quarter lead in game 5 still fuels us to get back to this moment. So I think it's great for our league. I think it's great that there's new champions. I think it's so difficult with only 12 teams, and it's so close, and we went chalk to the semifinals with the top 4 teams, and any of those 4 teams could have won it. And it's razor thin in this league between winning and losing. I mean, we were absolutely beaten. We were beaten, and we played a better 4 minutes in game 5, and now we're here. So it's just, it's so razor thin in this league.
Second row center, Curt.
Hi, Curt. Maggie Hendricks, Valley Sports. I talked yesterday to Odyssey Sims and Dejanay Carrington about their role when they're actually on the bench and keeping up energy. So I wanted to see what you get from that, and their kind of antics isn't the right word, but how they keep everybody up and excited.
Yeah, it's so important. The bench supporting the starters, when starters come out, they support the bench. That culture, that camaraderie is so important. It's something I believe in, and was a huge part of the collegiate level. When I coached there forever, we used to rock it off the bench at every media timeout. Normally we get warned every timeout because we meet our team at half quarter beyond. And it continues to see that. I notice those things as much film as we watch on the bench, and how they're supporting each other. And it means so much. Vice versa, starters come out, that they stay engaged and are really happy for the bench, and the bench is happy for the starters. And Dejanay and Odyssey, are 2 of those. Odyssey, when in discussions to sign her, was one of the questions she asked me. She goes, "Will you allow me to be myself on the bench?" And I didn't know what she meant, and so I asked her to elaborate. She said, "Can I be really fun on the sidelines when I'm on the bench?" I said, "Absolutely, I would expect you to." And she doesn't feel like she was always supported to be that way. And I absolutely love that.
Curt, first row to your left.
Hey, Curt, Kevin Pelton, ESPN.com. When you watched Chelsea Gray film from this year's playoffs, what was that like? And do you feel like there's anything you can do to slow her down?
Yeah, remarkable, right? Her numbers, the numbers are off the charts. The analytics are off the charts. Those are just numbers. And then when you watch it and how she's done those numbers, it's pretty eye-opening. Our hope is to try to get them out of rhythm. That's what we are. We're built around defense. We're built around trying to make things messy and get these offensive, high-powered, free-flowing offenses out of rhythm. And it's so much easier said than done. This series is different. The approach by Vegas is different than Chicago. But ultimately, can we try to keep them off balance and find stretches in the game to get them out of rhythm? And Chelsea's one of those. Chelsea, can she keep that up? Can she keep that up? And we're going to do our darndest to give her different looks throughout this whole series.
Curt, standing to your right.
Curt, Willie Ramirez with the Associated Press. A lot of the storylines throughout the season has been former players becoming coaches and impacts they're having. Interesting storyline in that you were an assistant coach with Colorado State. Becky was a player. just your admiration of watching her grow through the coaching ranks. She won an NBA Summer League championship here, obviously comes from the Spurs, and now in her first year leads the Aces to the finals.
Yeah, biggest fan ever. I just, my journey, and we shared this many times, and big credit and shout out to Tom Collin, who was my collegiate mentor and really helped bring the ball screen offense into my brain before it was really popular. And there's no secret we wanted the ball in Becky's hands often and always at Colorado State. But to walk into that program during Becky's senior year and us to go on to achieve as high as ranking as number 4 in the country and win in as a mid-major to the NCAA tournament that year as a number 2 seed, that success of that Colorado State team at 98-99, led by Becky, that single-handedly propelled my career to become and have an opportunity to interview for head jobs down the road. It was that team, it was that success led by Becky. And so I've been very honest that I probably don't get a shot to be a head coach without Becky's leadership on that 98-99 Colorado State team. I have such admiration for her. She's brought, what is great for our league is she's brought in even more NBA elements to our game. And we're a copycat league. And there are things that each one of us head coaches that bring into the league that others then ultimately copy. We're going to be copying for years to come some of the things that Becky does, and will only make our league better because of her presence in the league. I'm her biggest fan. I'm going to try to compete like crazy against her. She owes me. I have to remind her that I was on the shelf for 6 weeks that season when I tried to guard her and she broke my ankle, and I couldn't practice no longer against her for 6 weeks. But I don't know if she's too competitive. I know that it's going to be a great series.
All right, we have time for one, maybe 2 questions. Curt, third row to your left.
Hey, Coach, Matthew Walter with the next. Sort of jumping off of that question, when you step back and look at the series, the fact that you're coaching against Becky in the finals, both of you trying to get your franchise's first championship, just, I mean, how cool is that sort of all these storylines lined up for this series to sort of make it almost like the perfect story for both franchises?
Yeah, we text each other during the year. And we're like, I hope we meet in the playoffs. And I think we've both obviously met. We hope we meet in the finals. And it's come full circle. And Vegas has been a tremendous addition to our league. And, Connecticut's been around a long time and been knocking on the door for a long time. So really great that we'll have a first-time champion. And the storylines, there's so many different storylines. The other thing that we all remember is that in my first season, before I coached the game on draft night, Chelsea Gray was traded for John Paul Jones. One of the trades that most people look at as one of the best trades that benefited both teams. And, it's full circle back again that Chelsea Gray's in the final and JJ's in the final. And that was my first couple months on the job. So fun storylines abound in this series, and hopefully it will translate onto the court.
Curt, last question will come from Zoom. Fago, go ahead, please.
Hey, how you doing, Coach? Fago Franklin III with New Stitch Media. In game 1, how do you stop Kelsey Plum from being a factor in this game?
Easier said than done, right? Terrific. Plays with an unbelievable motor, terrific at all 3 levels. Can get herself to the rim, can make threes, but she's also got a mid-range game. So it's doing your work early is the best way I can describe how we've got a corral. There's 5 people trying to make Kelsey's driving lanes look congested. At the same time, we've got to slow her down and pick her up because she's got such a great step back game. She's going to get her points. She's going to score in this series. Our key is can it come at an efficiency that we can accept? Can we make her take some difficult contested shots? Ultimately, can we stay in place with her? And that's just not one person. That's going to take our whole team.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Curt, thank you.
Thank you.
No, I want to take one of his chair.
All right. We're going to switch. We're going to have all the media go up to the podium. Becky will sit in a chair. Okay, first question for Becky, second row center. And then we'll go to the first row after that.
In talking to Sydney Colson yesterday, we talked about her role as kind of the person to keep things light, and Teresa too, that they do that. So I was hoping you could comment on how that helps with the culture you're trying to create here.
I think, people they're super funny in general. They're fun people. But they also, I think I respect their professionalism, because when it's time to get down to business, they are locked in, ready to go. And it takes a special kind of person to be able to kind of flip that switch. Not everybody can do it. But those two, I mean, and I've said it before, like, this is our job and we're in it to win it. But also, like, there's more important things going on in the world than us putting the ball in the hoop. Now, that being said, all I care about today is putting the ball in the hoop. But they're just part of the character of the team. I mean, they're in school with another class clowns.
Next question, Becky, first row to your left.
Hi, Becky. Connecticut is known for its defensive intensity and aggression, and especially going back to what you saw them do in the series against Chicago. I was wondering what makes them so challenging on that end of the floor, and what do you need to see from your offense this series and today especially to kind of deal with that pressure?
Well, we know they like to muck up the game and have it be a slugfest. For us, the ball's got to be popping, players got to be cutting, because at the end of the day, if you stand, then you kind of play into their hands, because they can just crowd everything, make everything sludgy, something like that. But we know there's going to be a certain amount of physical play, but it should not be a rugby match. People should not be getting tackled and no calls. So,
Becky, next question, second row to your left.
Hey, Becky, Jackie Powell, Bleacher Report. Building off of Alexa's question, I'm curious as to how much mental toughness is a factor in dealing with the potential sludginess or the messy storm that Connecticut is trying to impose. And, you know, how do you sort of center your team when there's maybe some, I guess, nerves or anxiety in those situations?
well, I think for us, first of all, I think Connecticut has proved to be very good. Just the situation they were in Chicago, just unbelievable sense of resiliency because the situation, I thought the wheels were going off, and it ended up the other team's wheels fell off. So I give them a lot of credit. They're a very successful team. They're here for a reason. They have an identity. They have a system. And to Curt's system, you know, they're not going to change who they are, and we don't want to change who we are. That being said, there's some things that we're going to do differently than the previous series, yes. But at the end of the day, we want to space out, control the things that we can control. Can't control what they're going to do. Can't control what the officials are going to call or not call. Our job is to just play. And you really have to have a next play mentality. You're going to have composure. They're going to test our will.
Becky, standing to your right.
Becky Willie Ramirez with the Associated Press. You mentioned off the first question, you talked about identity. When you think about where you're at with this team now to where it started, we know that the style has changed on the court, but did you step in and sort of blend yourself into the identity that was here? Or is the identity off the court, locker room, on the bench, is it a new identity? Have you adapted to them, or are they adapted to what you were looking for?
Probably a little bit of both. You know, our whole saying this year was basically can't outgive the game. And no matter how much you give, the game will always give you back more. You know, and that's been the accountability part. just giving. So I give them my time, I give them everything I can possibly give them, and they've given me everything back in return. They've really bought into and understand, I think, what it takes for us to win because of the results. So there's certain things in our losses, these certain things happen, we lose. But these certain things happen, we win. So they're smart, they're competitive, and their buy-in factor has been huge. But yeah, identity, you don't just change it overnight, you know, it's a process. And a lot of times when you're going through an identity change, there'll be times where you revert back to who you were. And so it's in those moments where I want to nip it right in the bud. That's not who we are. That's not how we play. And move on.
Becky, third row to your left.
Hey, Becky, Matthew Walter with the Next. I asked Curt this, but just stepping back and looking at the fact that the both of you are coaching against each other, someone who coached you your senior year of college, trying to take both of your franchises to their first ever championship. Just, I mean, how cool is that? And how to sort of like in the moment, obviously you're focusing on the game, but when you look back at it at the end of this series, sort of the fact that you guys got to coach against each other and one of you is going to win a championship for the first time.
Well, I can tell Curt was here to set it down. It's way down. So me and Curt got the same mic level. I love Curt. Curt's invested into my life. Curt's invested into my basketball life. So yeah, I mean, it's cool. I don't think either of us give a damn at this point. We try to whoop each other's butt. Is that illegal to say?
You're good.
All right.
You're good. Becky, next question, second row to your left.
Hey, Becky, Kareem Copeland from the Washington Post. I'm just curious from your perspective, what kind of challenges or the biggest challenges that stand out to you about Alyssa Thomas and her versatility?
I mean, besides her brute force, I mean, to have a playmaker in that position, you know, she's probably one of like their best passer at that position. She's very good at reading defense. I think what's so impressive is that she just remains herself. She knows who she is, and she stays within that framework and makes it work. I love her competitiveness. Like, she wants to win. And so when you have competitors like that, you know you're going to get a good shot. Every time they step on the court with you, they're coming after you. So I like her competitive nature. I like warriors. And she certainly fits that bill.
Becky, to your left in the first row.
Hey, Becky, Kevin Pelton, ESPN.com. How helpful have the last few days off been for De'Erica? And do you feel like you need her to play a more substantial role in this series?
Possibly. I mean, I'm not sure how much I'll use her. We've had kind of a rhythm without her, and it's hard to insert her and to say, like, well, let's go try it out. Like, that's hard for me to say to her. At the same time, I tell her to just stay ready, be supportive of everybody going in there. And I don't know how many minutes she's going to get, and I've already had that conversation with her, and she is a pro.
Becky, first row to your right.
Ben Pickman, Sports Illustrated. Have you heard from Coach Pop or Ime over the last couple of days? And if so, you know, what were those conversations like, and what were you guys talking about?
Have you met Pop? You think I should tell you what we talked about? Manu got inducted last night, so I think that's where he's at. We text frequently and call, talk. I'll pick up his phone like he's still my boss. He's calling, I'm picking up.
Next question, first row center.
Hey, Becky, Mark Schindler, WNBA.com. Especially to looking at Connecticut playing, you know, four bigs, you know, like the one at the two in the last series, their size in general. What do you view as the keys for you defensively in this series, especially with what the size mismatch can be like?
We got a board, and we got to protect the paint. If they want to go super large, I might go super small. They got to guard us too. So you're giving up some height, but they're giving up a lot of speed. So, you know, there's give and take on every rotation that you want to put out there. You know, I can tell you in the Seattle series, there's a time I was like, well, I don't know how to stop them, but I don't think they can stop us either. So, you know, you just throw out your best players on that night and see what happens. I don't envision us going super big though when they throw that lineup out there.
Becky, thank you very much. As everybody, players will be available on the court 90 to 6.